You think you know the story of the Golden Goose, the comical folktale told to children at bedtime, where a foolish young man suddenly gains fortune by chance. It seems harmless, whimsical, and fit only for laughter. Yet what if I told you this light-hearted tale hides a truth so ancient and so haunting that it reaches into the forgotten layers of human history? Hidden beneath the surface of this playful fable lies an enduring mystery, a tale of transformation, divine judgment, and the strange union between humanity and the sacred bird. For centuries, storytellers have presented the golden goose as a symbol of luck and laughter. But deeper examination reveals something far older. Behind its cheerful exterior may rest echoes of forgotten cults, rituals of binding, and relics of civilizations that existed thousands of years before Europe's medieval scribes inked their pages. The Golden Goose is not just a fairy tale. It is an artifact of myth, a fragment of spiritual archaeology, and a riddle that has clung to us for more than 2 millennia. Once upon a time there was a poor woodcutter who had 3 sons. The 2 eldest were strong, clever, and proud, while the youngest was considered a fool. He was mocked by his brothers, overlooked by his family, and thought to be good for nothing. One day the eldest son went into the forest to chop wood. An old man appeared asking for food and kindness, but the boy treated him harshly. The same fate befell the second son. Then the fool went to the forest, and when the old man asked for bread, the fool gladly shared what little he had. In return, the old man guided him to a tree, telling him to cut it down. Inside the hollow trunk, the fool discovered something wondrous, a goose with feathers, made entirely of shining gold. Amazed, he carried it away. When the fool stopped at an inn, the goose drew attention. Curious onlookers tried to pluck a golden feather, but each one who touched the bird became stuck fast. First one, then another, then a third, until a comical procession of people was dragged along wherever the fool went. The spectacle amused a princess locked in sorrow. She had not smiled in years. Yet when she saw the ridiculous parade of villagers stuck to the golden goose, she burst into laughter. The king declared that whoever made her laugh would win her hand in marriage. Thus, the fool who owned the goose became a prince. In the end, the once scorned simpleton lived in wealth and happiness, while his greedy brothers were left behind, punished for their arrogance. Well, the story is told. The fool, the goose of gold, the laughter of a princess, and the reward of fortune. But the tale was not always told in this cheerful, childlike manner. Its origins lie deeper, shifting and reshaping with each passing century. The Golden Goose was first written down in Europe during the early 19th century, preserved in the collection of the Brothers Grimm. Yet even then the story was not entirely original. The Grimms themselves gathered it from oral traditions in Germany, where traveling storytellers had long passed it from village to village. The tale was called Die Golden Gans, and its focus was simple moral instruction. Generosity brings reward, greed brings downfall, but earlier echoes exist. In medieval manuscripts, one finds references to enchanted birds of shining feathers, often guarded by supernatural beings. These versions were darker, warning of curses and punishments for those who touched what was forbidden. The golden bird was not a comic pet but a sacred creature linked to divine will. Even further back, in fragments of Greco-Roman and Celtic myth, scholars see clear parallels: the sacred goose of Juno in Rome, the golden swan of Celtic lakes, the shining bird that guided lost souls. These birds were not silly companions, but symbols of guardianship, fertility, and passage to the afterlife. Through the centuries, the tale was softened. The fool became a harmless rustic. The golden goose turned into a comical trick. The princess's laughter replaced the more ominous themes of initiation and transformation. What once might have been a ritual myth became bedtime amusement. Why did these changes occur? In part, because the Christian Middle Ages sought to reshape older myths into harmless moral tales. Dangerous symbols were stripped of their darker meanings, leaving only a shell of humor and lesson. Thus the story of the Golden Goose traveled through time, each era reshaping it to suit its values, until the original mystery was buried beneath laughter and simplicity. On closer inspection, the Golden Goose is not just a creature of laughter. It features echo myths from across the ancient world. In Roman tradition, geese were sacred to the goddess Juno, protectress of marriage and guardian of Rome. Legends tell of the sacred geese that saved the Capitoline Hill by raising alarm during a night attack. These birds were not ordinary creatures but divine messengers, tied to vigilance and the fate of a city. Could the golden goose be a lingering echo of that sacred flock? In Egyptian myth, the goose was connected to Geb, the god of the earth. From the great Kakala goose came the primeval egg that birthed the sun. Gold, in Egyptian belief, symbolized eternity, the flesh of the gods themselves. A golden goose, then, would be no mere bird but a fusion of creation and divinity, carrying the brilliance of immortality. In Celtic lore, birds of radiant plumage often guided heroes to the otherworld. Golden swans or geese appeared as omens, binding mortals to supernatural quests. Those who touched such birds risked being drawn into realms beyond life, unable to return. Does this not resemble the people stuck fast to the golden goose, unable to free themselves once they reached for its feathers? Even in Norse traditions, the goose connects to fertility and foolishness, bridging comedy with sacred meaning. Folklore often mocked the goose as a silly bird, yet beneath the ridicule lingered associations with wealth, harvest, and divine favor. Could it be that the fool of the tale is not just a rustic simpleton, but an initiate of older rites? His kindness to the old man mirrors ancient hospitality laws. His discovery of the goose in a hollow tree recalls the world tree or sacred groves, where divine treasures were hidden. Those who reached for the goose's golden plumage became bound, as if entering a ritual from which only transformation could release them. The golden goose, far from being a children's joke, appears to be a fragment of myth spanning multiple civilizations. Its laughter hides echoes of ritual, sacrifice, and the shimmering light of eternity itself. In 1872, during excavations near the ancient Roman site of Capua, archaeologists discovered a mosaic fragment depicting a strange bird. It was unmistakably a goose, yet its feathers were gilded in gold tesserae, arranged to shimmer in the light. The mosaic was not a decoration for children's delight, but part of a temple floor, believed to be dedicated to Juno. The image suggested that golden-feathered geese were not simply flights of imagination, but symbols revered in cult practice. Fast forward to the 20th century. In 1929, explorers in the Altai Mountains of Siberia unearthed a burial mound dating back more than 2,000 years. Inside rested the remains of a chieftain, surrounded by grave goods. Among them was a wooden carving of a goose inlaid with gold leaf. The carving's posture showed wings spread, as if in flight, and scholars connected it to shamanic journeys between worlds. More recent research in India revealed yet another link. In Sanskrit texts of the Rig Veda, the Hamsa golden waterfowl, often interpreted as goose or swan, appears as a vehicle of the gods, symbolizing the soul's passage across the cosmic waters. Archaeologists uncovered bronze figurines of such birds in the Indus Valley, reinforcing the idea that the shining goose was a recurring sacred motif. These findings shocked researchers, because they demonstrated that the pattern of the golden goose story, poor youth, sacred bird, miraculous transformation, was not confined to Europe. Variants appeared in India, Central Asia, the Mediterranean, and beyond. Each culture shaped it differently, yet the core remained intact. A mortal touched by a divine bird, leading to consequences of binding, transformation, or fortune. Experts now propose that the tale of the golden goose could trace back to Proto-Indo-European mythologies over 3,000 years ago. Its survival into a fairy tale is not a dilution, but a survival of myth in disguise. What we dismiss as childlike comedy may in fact be the fossil of a sacred ritual once practiced across continents. At first glance, the golden goose seems like nothing more than a magical animal bestowing luck, yet symbolism reveals a labyrinth of deeper meaning. The goose itself represents liminality, the border between worlds. It swims on water yet walks on land, a dual creature bridging two realms. When covered in gold, its feathers signal not mere wealth but divine incorruptibility. In alchemical traditions, gold symbolizes perfection, the immortal essence untouched by decay. Thus, the golden goose is not simply valuable. It embodies eternity in divine passage. The action of people becoming stuck when touching the goose may appear comical, but it mirrors ancient rituals of binding and Greek tragedy and shamanic traditions alike. Touching the sacred without permission bound mortals in spiritual chains. To grasp at divine feathers without understanding was to trap oneself between life and death. The fool, often dismissed as naive, is in fact the only figure worthy of the goose. His generosity toward the old man signifies the sacred law of reciprocity, a universal principle among ancient cultures. By sharing bread with a stranger, he passes the test of humility, earning access to divine treasure. His brothers, greedy and proud, fail the same test, showing that arrogance bars one from initiation. The laughter of the princess is another symbolic puzzle. In many traditions, laughter marks the breaking of enchantments, the release of sorrow, or the opening of new life. Her long silence echoes mourning or death-like stasis. Only the sight of mortals bound to the divine bird, stumbling in absurd procession, breaks the spell. Through laughter she acknowledges the paradox of life and death, the sacred comedy of existence. Viewed this way, the story becomes a ritual drama. The fool is an initiate, the goose a divine object, the stuck followers a symbol of those unready for transcendence, and the princess's laughter the final seal of rebirth. Far from nonsense, the golden goose encodes a myth of death, transformation, and renewal. What appears childish is in fact a mirror of initiation rites whispered across ancient civilizations. The story of the golden goose you thought was just a comical children's tale of a fool stumbling into fortune is, when examined closely, something far greater. It is the convergence of folklore, archaeology, spirituality, and ancient mythology. Behind the laughter lies a story that may have been told for thousands of years. Across Rome, Egypt, India, and Celtic lands, the goose of gold is not a mere curiosity but a relic of sacred symbolism. It embodies eternity, divine favor, and the peril of touching what belongs to the gods. The fool is no fool at all, but the humble initiate who alone has the courage and purity to pass the test. Those who mocked him found themselves bound, as humanity has always been bound to the mysteries of the divine, through archaeological discoveries, from mosaics in Italy to carvings in Siberia and figurines in the Indus Valley. The golden goose emerges as more than legend. It becomes evidence of shared human memory, a myth encoded in golden feathers, surviving beneath layers of laughter. When we hear the tale now, we can no longer dismiss it as harmless comedy. It is a journey between life and death, sorrow and laughter, ignorance and illumination. And if the golden goose hides such depths, how many other childhood tales conceal the bones of ancient rituals? How many myths wear masks of simplicity while carrying the echoes of forgotten gods? If that thought unsettles you, hold it close, for the next tale may draw us even deeper into the labyrinth of myth and memory.